I think it's the clarity around feeling like it's a purposeful, deliberate, thoughtful, tax-savvy, engaged decision-making process. So purposeful. And then purpose-filled is the question of whether it's meaningful, right? We're looking for something to be both important and meaningful to the family and important and meaningful to the nonprofits that we partner with. So the idea is that those two practices, purposeful, purpose-filled, and that sort of Venn diagram of overlap is that sweet spot where we want to find ourselves. As far as the obligation piece, some folks come to us and say they haven't felt that meaningful part, right, so far. And so we'll peel that apart and say, why isn't this not meaningful to you? Well, let's try to see if we can't shift the way that you're approaching philanthropy and try to hit that Venn diagram, that sweet spot. There can be a lot of misconceptions about philanthropy, but one that I see pretty often is that folks attribute the gift of dollars, right? Treasure. We talk about there being 6 T's, and the T that is treasure, dollars or assets, are sort of the one thing people really think about when they think about philanthropy. And I would broaden that definition to include 5 other T's. So in addition to treasure, we see folks giving time and talent, right? Volunteering in a skill-based way. We also see folks leveraging their ties in an additive way to support a cause. We see people thinking about taxes, right? Whether or not their nonprofit that they think about engaging with has tax credits that they can support. And we also think about testimony, which is using your words. It's telling a story, a narrative. It's showing up and advocating for a cause. So more broadly, when we think about the 6 T's of philanthropy, we think about how they all relate to different ways to serve. Another great example of ties is giving circles. That is when folks come together collectively to do group grant making. Everyone contributes a certain amount to the pot, and then they go through a process of a calling for applications, considering and evaluating what the proposals look like, and then doing site visits, and then awarding dollars at the end of the process. Giving circles allow you to leverage your ties in new ways so that folks can work collectively. We see a lot of different choices that families make. I always joke, you've met one family, because every family has different ideas about how they want to approach charitable giving. And a lot of times time is a wonderful way to start. Spending time with younger members of the family in volunteer work, as well as using words that approximate your own feelings about your ability to be generous, right? So saying things like we're lucky, or we've worked hard, or we're blessed. Everyone has sort of different language around that, but reminding the kids this is an opportunity to engage in the community around us by using those kinds of conversational prompts is really helpful. Many of our families will do charitable giving in small ways as for example, family starts to engage. So having small amounts of money set aside for the younger generation to give gifts every year to a nonprofit, and explaining why to the family they chose that nonprofit can be a really useful exercise as we start to learn about stewardship.